Hello and welcome to the Nitro RX / maybe Nitrocross at some point soon podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Thiemo Daily, and I'm joined as ever by my brilliant co-host Nabila and Thiemo. How the heck are you?
I am doing well. How about yourself?
Hot, very hot.
You just English and just wait, Great Britain generally just can't get a hold on their heat, can they?
Too much, 2 days, and that's enough. Thank you. Goodbye. I don't know how you do it in Florida. Too much.
I'm enjoying my 30 degrees. Well, I'm not enjoying the 36 with 68% humidity, but whatever. At least I have AC, so I can't complain.
Sucker for pain. But we're not here for that. We're not here for the weather, even though we're both British and we immediately went for the weather. We're back because Nitrocross is back. And yes, somehow the off season is already over. It doesn't feel like that long ago that we just wrapped things up for the last season, but apparently we're back and ready to get racing for the 2023-2024 season, which is going to be in Oklahoma this weekend. How the hell did this happen?
I don't know, but I think it's actually kind of cool. I was always curious as to how they were going to make these half year to half years work. But I feel like they've had the shortest break of any championship. Like, what did we end in middle of March? And now we're starting in June. Like maybe it's 2.5 months for generic, but that's 2.5 months. Am I getting my maths right, or is that only two?
No, 2.5 months. No, I
Okay,
hate that I had to double check
give or
that,
take.
but
Yeah, but it feels really, really quick. But I think that's because they've had so much going on in the downtime. They've changed their name. They're announcing everybody who's going to be driving with them. They've announced the calendar. Like they haven't truly let it go, if that makes sense. Like you
no, it
kind of
seems
feel
quite
like
a natural,
F1
smooth
stopped.
segue.
Yeah. Like you sometimes feel the other racing series is come to a halt and then restart, but this has kind of just been a flow the whole way through,
It's
which
kind
I
of
think
been
is
the
cool.
opposite to Formula One in the sense that the season in F1 seems to have not quite got going yet, despite the fact that we're nearly halfway through the season. And yet Nitrocross has finished a season, rebranded itself, built a couple of tracks, swapped a few drivers around, got a couple of new ones in, as we'll get to, and gone again and getting ready to go again. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Pretty much. And I think the drivers will appreciate that. It's all kind of like nonstop. There's stuff consistently happening. They've had video filming and stuff behind the scenes.
Hmm.
They've borrowed Nitro in 3 words.
They did. Conor Martell using exactly the same answer, so I got to appreciate
Mm-hmm.
that.
At least he's consistent. And
He
he
is.
found them here first.
Do you think he was like, what did I say last time? I don't. We got it perfect last time on the podcast. Let's go there.
I hope so. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Go have a little cheeky re-listen.
Mm-hmm. Got to re-promote the old work while we still can. But yes,
But
so I'm
yeah.
going to bring you up to speed on kind of the new kind of stuff that's been going on. We've got teams and drivers kind of being announced, and I feel like again this is asking a lot for last year memory wise, but I don't recall that being as clear last year. It was just kind of here's Nitro RX, and we're going to have we're going to see what happens, and here's the drivers, the teams. Again, I go back a few episodes on this podcast. I didn't realize we had a constructors championship to the final round, so at least I know a rough breakdown so far. I'm pretty sure we don't have everyone yet, but at the time of recording, we've got some names, we've got some teams, and we've got a couple of different categories. So we've got something to work with here, and it should be interesting enough. And I reckon because why the hell not? We'll make a couple of predictions as well. Although you're probably not allowed to go for anything too obvious because that's cheating. I'm just going to rule that out now.
Okay. All right. Fair.
But we'll kick off with the Group E drivers that we know are there. So Vermont Sports Car were the first team to announce who they've got there. Not too surprising. We've got Travis Pastrana back, and he's with Conor Martell. So that's quite a solid, consistent lineup from last time. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, I agree. And it seems like a lot of the teams are taking that similar approach. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Everyone enjoyed the drivers last year. Like Excite Energy Racing's coming back, and they're bringing back with them Oliver Bennett. And I'm happy to see Chris Meek. I'm assuming this means he's driving the whole season, which will
I
be
hope
nice
so.
because I think having a consistent run at it might potentially be beneficial and we can see better things. I'm hoping to see better things from Excite all around.
Yeah, I mean, last year for Bennett was very much a foundation year in a lot of ways and get to grips with everything. So I'm glad that we said, let's hope they come back this year and they're not disheartened by the lack of results being consistent there. They had a couple of good ones, but it was very much a building up moment. And that second seat was a bit of rotation. You had a few different people in there. So I think that if we can have Meek for a whole season, that could be quite good. And maybe we have a nice underdog story there. Who knows? I'll get more to that a little bit later. But we've also got both Ericsson's back for the Olsberg SMSE team, but there's a little bit of a twist because we've also got Benito Guerra joining them by the looks of things, which seems to be for the full season. So that's nice. He made his appearance in the season finale back in the tail end of last year, 2.5 months ago. It's still the same year, but nice that comes in like we've seen a lot of drivers do and say, yeah, let's go for the full honk this time.
Yeah, I agree. I think that'll be a fun lineup. Oliver and Kevin really came into their own halfway through the season of last year, so they have a good basis to pick up on, which will be nice. And then Benito Guerra, I'm interested. I think it's going to be fun. I think that's going to spice things up a little bit. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth here, but I feel like he comes from a rallying background because his name is extremely familiar to me. So I don't know whether I've competed on the same event of him at some point, but I just, in my brain,
I'm just getting the Umbrella Academy meme here of you just driving past each other going, I know you.
It's kind of funny, actually. But yeah, I think it's all going to be... It's a nice mix-up to what seems to be a pretty consistent team matchup.
We've got that as well with a team whose name I can't properly pronounce yet because I'm not convinced that I will get it right. Maybe that's going to be my thing for this year, but Greyerin, Bold Racing, let's go with that. They've got Robin Larson, Andreas Backward back, and kind of consistency is key. You won the championship, won 2 last year. Why would you change that? But then interestingly, we saw this the other day on socials, and I was like, that's an interesting move halfway through an IndyCar season. What's going on there? Turns out Connor Daly's going over to Nitrocross. That's a switch up that I wasn't expecting, but I love that we get another driver from another discipline in here because I don't think we've had an IndyCar driver yet, have we?
I don't believe so. I think NASCAR happened last year.
And
then you've got
NASCAR
with
extremely but we didn't have... Jensen was the closest we got to a single-seater driver. So
yeah,
and Connor Daly's been in IndyCar for a little while up to this point, so that's going to be very interesting to see how he fares and if that's going to be a bit of an Oliver Bennett year or if it's going to be, oh, he's actually a lot better at this than we were going to maybe give him credit for, considering he's been in IndyCar and how different that is.
Yeah, I'm curious, and also I'm going to play ignorant here. Is he still racing in IndyCar or is he fully switched to just this?
He's fully gone now from that, so it's Nitrocross all the way. Which
I'm
again, bold move to make.
Oh, 100%. But I don't think a track racer and single-seater racer can't make that switch. I mean, I don't think Jensen couldn't do it. I think the jumps terrified him. It's a completely different thing. So I'm curious to know how he feels about the jumps, because I think, if anything, that's going to be the one that can trip you up the most, or at least make you question it a little bit, because they do look terrifying. A gap jump, come on. But I don't think Jensen in his testing or anything else had issues with the driving. I think they're very talented, you know what I mean? And I don't
kind of getting your head around, oh, I can't do this exactly the same way because I'm obviously not an F1 car now, but my brain is just so infused in this way of thinking that I need to change that slightly.
Exactly. But that will be intriguing. And we've got 2 newbies and the rest are seasoned now. Some more than a year, some a year. So I think it's gonna be fun.
Yes, definitely yes. And like I said at the start of this, these are just the names that we know about at the moment. We're recording this on a Wednesday for whenever people are listening. So there's still a couple of days before all the action kicks off. So who knows who else might pop out of the woodwork. But it's going to be interesting. But that's kind of all we know about Group E. And aside from one driver that we'll get to in a second, we don't know who else is going to be racing in either of the other categories at the moment. There's obviously the SXS cars and the Next Cars category, the 2 other categories that we had last year primarily. And we're at least going to have the Next Cars, which is surprisingly difficult to say for some reason, this weekend in Oklahoma, because Leah Block's making a step up from SXS to the Next Cars, which is kind of what we wanted to see a little bit with these other categories and seeing who would make the jump from which category to which and after how long. So great to have the Block name back in Nitrocross and that it's Leah and that she's making promotion.
Yeah, I think it was a given. I don't think she should have stayed in the SXS buggies, I guess they are. Anyway, I think the step up was necessary. And also she's running some rallies in the American Championship this year. So I think hopefully those two together will be good practice both ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of similar.
I think there'll definitely be some benefit for her moving into the next category and this going into her driving as well. So intrigued.
Definitely intrigued. And from last year as well, we saw that there weren't many drivers in that category overall in the season. So it'll be very interesting to see how many more we get from that, if it's the same 4 or 5, or if it's like, oh my days, there's 12 of them now. What do we do? And how much that could mix things up a bit. But again, we have no way of going about that. So we'll have to just tackle that in the review episode when we do that. But like I said, at the time of recording, we don't know anyone else who's going to be driving for definite. No doubt, as we record this Nitrocross, we'll sneakily put a few more names out and we'll curse accordingly. But I put a little note here because before we do predictions about previous champions that we've had for Group E in the Nitro RX Nitrocross Championship before. And it's kind of interesting because we've never had a repeat winner. We had Timmy Hansen in 2018, Kevin Hansen in 2019, Travis then in 2021, and obviously Robin Larson last season. So by that logic, I'm going to go first prediction to you, Nabila. If Robin Larson's not going to do the double, then who's going to win this year?
I just want to throw out it wasn't Group E until last year. It was, I'm pretty sure, what the next category car is. Was it? No, the supercar category. Champion. Yeah. Just for anyone who's going to be a stickler on that, we know Group E started last year. That's just the category of car right now. But I don't know.
I know who you
honestly,
want,
I don't know.
I don't know if that will happen.
I know who I want. Exactly. I know who I want. And I'm probably, I'm clutching at straws to say that Chris Meek can win this championship. But I mean, I have to stay loyal. I can't just diss on the rally lot, that would be wrong. So I was all for Robin Larson last year. He did it. If we want different, realistically, especially with it being all American rounds this year, I have a sneaky feeling Travis is coming back.
You think maybe that's why he made it all American this year? Like, it didn't work so well for last year. Let me just try it.
I don't know if it's necessarily that, because also he had to get to grips with the Group E car. It's completely different to what they're used to. But he will have a lot of influence in these tracks. He has a lot of influence in these tracks. And
he's literally built the first one.
Exactly. And he knows the car now. So he's definitely going to be one to watch. But then you do have Baccarid.
So I think I'll go for Baccarid just because of how close he was last year and keeping it blasting on his toes right into the final round there. That if he'd wanted to make it tricky for him, he could have maybe been a bit more aggressive at times. So maybe like, okay, I helped you last year a little bit, or I didn't attack you as much as I could have. So this year, maybe gloves off a bit more and you go for a nice sequel in that regard.
Yeah, so I'm going to go for my underdog one. Let's go with Chris Meek. Why not? And what's your underdog one? Because let's be real, Baccarid's not really an underdog.
Let's see who we've got. If I'm going to go underdog, I'm going to say Bennett and keep it Excite Energy, and we'll see. It just goes from really kind of under the radar first season to I know everything now. Bam, I've got this.
We might be eating our words at the end of the year, but we're going to take it. We're going to take it.
But how good will we look if we're right?
Oh, I'd be very impressed. I'd be going back, going, damn, we saw something.
Other drivers that you'd like to see making a one-off appearance? I mean, we talked about this a little bit in a previous episode about who would like to join the grid just generally, but if you could only have a drive for like one race here or there, who would you like to come a little bit left field?
So this is going to sound really bad. As much as I liked the one-off drivers, I don't want them influencing the championship. So if you have a one-off driver, I don't want their points being counted. Do you know what I mean? But that's just me being cynical because of how complicated it was last year and how easy it was for someone to come in.
Nitro. Give us a graphic. I don't know how it works yet.
But also it was very easy for someone to take your points that wasn't showing up. And I think that hindered a couple people last year. But randomly, I'm going to have a think while you go because
Whilst you're thinking about who else you would want there is also the driver that we did forget to mention about, which is Fraser McConnell, who will be joining Connor Daly, Andreas Baccarid, and Robin Larson to what will be quite a lineup there. So I'm sorry, Fraz, that we forgot you there. Nothing personal. It's just there was a lot going on, and there was always going to be one driver we forgot. But again, Fraz could be an interesting driver to have in the mix there for the championship. Maybe he would be. I don't know if he's a wild card or an underdog or what we call them.
I don't think he's an underdog. He won a race last year. Definitely not considering him an underdog when he spent half his time on the podium. I think that would be that don't really work, does it? I am not surprised that he's coming back, and I am disappointed in Nitro that they haven't shared that, because that's where we get our information, guys. Come on, keep up. But no, I'm joking. But I was like, I definitely saw it, and then I thought I was imagining it, and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, they've been good lately on promoting which drivers are which teams, and Fraser had his own little announcement on the side. I'm like, Nitro, where are you?
Yeah,
Price is back.
But I'm still staying with where I was staying on the underdog approach, and then
drivers that we want there. Again, I'm just thinking it's like, if we get a one-off, do you want them to be a high-profile driver, or do you want them to be a driver that we maybe know by name but don't know too much about, just because then chances are, unless they're a really flash-in-the-pan kind of Nitro event that we could probably get, to be fair, your championship argument isn't too much of a problem there, because they're not going to score too highly on points that aren't going to matter as much for those at the top.
Agreed. I think if I had anyone, I'd want it in the last round, and it'd be Seb Loeb.
Fair.
Which I believe we've brought up many a time. So
if we say it enough times. Seb Loeb, or I would like Tanner Faust back for a round. Just that'd be fun. He's gone off and done a lot of stunt driving, so let's get him back in the car for a round and just see what it'd be like on one of these tracks.
Yeah, agreed.
Talking of tracks, though, Oklahoma's first up, and we've had a bit of a sneak peek at it. It's Travis's baby. He's finally been able to bring it to life for the season opener, and from what we've seen so far, it does look pretty mega, doesn't it? I mean, it's kind of got a Hot Wheels Nitro Circus style descending start by the look of it, and it just kind of, I'm glad there's more tracks, otherwise you would think it's just one of the normal things where you're just going to fly off the end, and good luck landing.
I think it looks really cool. He's definitely stuck to his guns on trying to make this whole thing more Nitro Circusy, definitely, because I feel like that might be a switch of why they went with Nitrocross rather than Nitro Rallycross. A, because they can bring in, as we mentioned before, a ton of different styles in and not really worry about it. And B, they can go a bit wilder with the tracks because they need to bring that true Nitro Circus feel to it.
And I think, like what you were saying earlier, with these newer drivers and even some of the experienced ones, this will really sort you out in terms of, do you know what you've signed up for? Because you're going to go shooting down this giant slope then, and then you've got a massive bank turn not long after that. And then after that, it's essentially just lots of twists and turns, which normally, again, I'm thinking single seats, you must be like really, really tight and everything, but it's just going to be so much sliding around the place. But there's so many overtaking opportunities within that from what we've seen before, that there's probably potential for some elbow bashing as well going into all of these. And I think it's going to be a good wake-up call for everyone and shake off the cobwebs of the past couple of months in the off-season.
Definitely. And I am intrigued to know whether there's going to be any kind of, like, remember in the first round of last year, there was a couple of wipeouts between a couple of drivers hitting each other. I'm curious to know if that's going to happen, and whether it's going to be seasoned drivers or whether it's going to be the newbies that kind of get caught out. And also if they're going to put in some things that you're not allowed to hit and create time penalties again, because that was kind of a big deal at the beginning of the season last year, and then it just kind of got phased out.
Tailed off a bit there, didn't it? That'd be kind of nice as well, because again, I think in some tracks it works better than others, and again, but I think if you're going to have that, you kind of have to implement it at all of them, because otherwise it seems a bit weird. Don't know how you'd maybe do that in somewhere like Canada, just like don't hit that snowbank, but you can hit that one. But again, that'd be something to figure out and be fun along the way. Or just don't be taking too many liberties with it. I was thinking Travis in particular, where he was just kind of plowing all over the various areas of snow at some points. It's like, no, that's not helpful. That's not going to do anyone any good. But that'd be quite fun, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's definitely ways that they're going to make it bigger. It's going back to true American style. We can see that from the fact that they've changed their name, from the fact that they're only competing here in the US. Like, it's going to be big, it's going to be bold, and it's going to be fun.
It's going to be Nitro.
Pretty much.
That is all we've got time for on this week's episode, though. And if you want more from Nabila and I in the meantime, do go and take a look back at some of our previous episodes, as I did mention a bit earlier, including interviews with people such as Street Bike Tommy, Timmy Hansen, and Michaela Arlen Kotlinski, to name just a few. Do go and follow us over on Instagram as well. And the links for where to find Nabila and I away from everything Nitrocross will be in the show notes to this episode. So do go and take a look at all of those. In the meantime, we'll be back with a review from Oklahoma very soon-ish. I'm going to say it's going to be a wild weekend, I think, and going to have to just launch straight back into it again. It's going to feel exactly like going down that descending slope at the start of the track, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And I can't wait because I think it's going to be a great kickoff. But yeah, thank you all for listening, and we're going to be back soon.